Hi, welcome back to my channel, Beautiful Minutia. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and today I wanted to talk to you about some of my favorite things lately. I decided to shift this year, and instead of doing videos like at the end of a quarter saying these are my favorites from the last quarter, I decided to do them seasonally instead. And sometimes that is going to line up with the end of the quarter, but sometimes it's not. So I'm going to be talking about some springtime favorites this time and some things that I have been enjoying lately. I will have this split up into sections so you can skip around if there are certain things you're interested in and certain things you're not. Okay, let's just kind of start with like general favorite things. So I feel like these are kind of like miscellaneous, and one of them I feel like is obvious maybe and stupid and everyone will agree with me, but right now one of my favorite things is daylight savings time, like that now we have switched and the days are longer. Like, it's amazing how an extra hour of daylight in the evening is so life-giving. It makes you feel so much better about everything and makes the days not feel as short and as gloomy. So I know that that's probably something obvious and we probably all feel the same way about that, but man, it really hit me extra this year because every time that daylight savings comes around, I'm kind of like, "Oh man, I'm going to lose an hour of sleep." And this year, I did not care, not even a little. Also, now that the weather is starting to warm up, I have things sprouting in my garden, which is exciting and wonderful, and no real blooms yet, but my mom did come to visit and she bought me some pansies, which I put in like planters on my porch. And it's amazing how that little pop of color, these sweet little flowers, just brings so much joy and happiness to my day when I look out the window and see them there, or I let my dogs outside and I see them, or now the weather's starting to warm up and I can actually sit on my porch swing and read sometimes, and the flowers are right there, and it is just, it's just so lovely. Another thing that I am absolutely loving that is super springy is I got these really adorable stickers from Amazon. I'll have them linked below and I'll have pictures up here that I used in my March bullet journal pages. And they're little Peter Rabbit stickers. They're so cute and they make me so happy and they just feel so springy and perfect. And they were perfect for a middle grade March spread. Another really random thing, I guess, is like now that like the weather is getting better, it's getting easier for me to work out, and I try to work out consistently during the winter and stuff, but it's getting easier for me to, take walks outside, and I feel more motivated in the spring to work out than I do in the winter. Winter just feels like hibernation mode. I don't hibernate, but I want to. So I've been like very consistently working out and using like Beachbody on demands. I'm not a coach or anything, so this is not me trying to promote something that I'm going to make money off of because I won't. But the program that I just finished that I really liked is called Job 1, and it's only like 20 minutes a day. So if you're trying to get back into the rhythm and routine of working out, like doing 20 minutes a day is so much more doable than the kind of workouts that I was doing last year where I'm like, oh yeah, they're like 45-minute workouts, which is great. I like being able to work out for that long. But when you're just trying to rebuild a habit and a routine, I've found that for myself, starting small is key because I will just get get in my head where I'm like, yes, I'm ready to change everything about myself and about my life, and I want to change it all at once. I'm going to start getting up early and working out and eating perfectly and doing all these things, and like I want to change all the things at once, and then inevitably after about 2 to 3 weeks I experience intense burnout and stop doing all of it. I can't be the only one that struggles with this. I'm sure that I'm not, but that's just who I've always been. I've always kind of been like an all or nothing person, but that really very much leads to burnout. And so that's something I've learned, is that as much as I want to run ahead and do all the things, it is so much better for me to slow down and work on like one thing at a time. So even before I was like daily working out, I was working on waking up earlier and getting into better eating habits. And so now I'm adding in like daily working out, not just like walking, but like daily actual like weightlifting and stuff like that. And so that has been wonderful for me. And it's been wonderful to be able to start with something that's like 5 days a week and is short. So it's really easy to work it in. Okay, let's move on to food. One of my very favorite things right now, if you follow me on Instagram, you have seen this, is that I've started teaching my daughter how to cook. And that has been So amazing. It's been so much fun. And so she's cooked several times and she's starting with cooking meals that are her favorites. And that has just been so much fun. But yeah, I've loved that. But I do have some recipes to share with you because I always do. And they're linked in the description. So if any of these sound particularly delicious to you, I've got you covered and you can go find them. Actually, I just realized that every single one of these recipes is from Pinch of Yum, which is one of my favorite food blogs. But a lot of times my recipes are coming from like 4 or 5 different food blogs that I check on a regular basis for new recipes and stuff. But I think most of these, maybe even all of these, Pinch of Yum does an SOS series because the woman who runs the website has 2 small children. And so there are times where she's like, we go through phases of life where it's really crazy and it's really hard to cook. And these are like easy go to, like it takes less than 30 minutes. It doesn't require a ton of prep, all that kind of stuff. And so I think all 3 of these maybe are part of that SOS series. One of them is buffalo chicken burgers. And oh my gosh, these are so, so good. And it has like a whipped feta that you put on the bun. That's really, really good. And I actually cannot have dairy, but my Aldi actually sells goat cheese feta. So I was able to use that and then use dairy-free cream cheese because you whip it up in a food processor and you put it on the bun and it like adds just a little bit of tang and zing. But if you're a little bit of a spice wimp like I am, it actually cools down the burger just a little bit as well. So it's a win-win there. But if you don't like feta or if you don't want to do that, you could easily put like ranch or blue cheese or something on your burger as well. But they are so easy and so fast. And ever since I've made them, I've been thinking about making them again because I love them so much. Another recipe that's like that I've actually, I think, made 3 times already. And I'm one of these people. I need variety in my food. I could eat similar things for like breakfast or lunch a lot of times, but for dinner, I can't eat the same thing over and over. I get so sick of things so easily. So if I really enjoy something and it goes in the rotation and I'm like, oh, I love making this, I make it often, that means I make it probably like once every 6 weeks or something. But this recipe I have made like 3 times in the past like 6 weeks. So it's really been in the rotation and it's really kind of versatile. You can use it for different things, but it's chicken tacos and it's super easy where you just need, chicken thighs and then like taco seasoning and some oil and you make it in the air fryer. So it's really fast. It's really easy. We've used them to make actual chicken tacos. They're phenomenal on that, but it's really good for like chicken salad or like wraps or like you could use them for other things other than just like a straight up taco. And so I've actually also meal prepped this chicken taco meat and then had it for salads for like a whole week. So it's so good. And also on there is a recipe for like this really good like cilantro green sauce that you put on top. Again, the recipe for that, actually the sauce has cheese in it, and if you're dairy free like me, you can just omit the cheese and it's still just as delicious and it tastes like so fresh. And when the weather starts warming up and it starts getting more sunny and less gloomy, I find myself gravitating more towards fresh food. So that just makes it feel really fresh. And the last one that's on here also feels really fresh. And I did post about this recently on my Instagram stories, and it's a chipotle orange shrimp. It is so easy and so fast, but it also feels kind of bougie. Like it feels kind of fancy because you've got like regular rice, but then at the end you stir in like a little bit of like some kind of citrus juice. You could use lime. I used orange because you use orange zest in the recipe, but I squeezed in a little orange juice and some chopped up cilantro. So that felt like fancier than normal rice, and the shrimp were just so good. It's got like this cream sauce, and I didn't use, again, I'm dairy free, so I didn't use like heavy whipping cream like they said to use. Instead, I just used coconut cream, and that worked perfectly and went really well with kind of like the smoky, citrusy flavor of the shrimp. Okay, so let's move on to entertainment. We'll start with music, I guess. We've had some really great music being released in the K-pop world recently that we have just been enjoying so much. So one of our favorite groups is ITZY, which is a girl group, and their leader Yeji, who is my favorite in the group, she just released her very first solo project, and it is so good. We have had that on repeat. Along with Stray Kids releasing a new like mixtape thing, which has like a Korean version of one of our favorite of their Japanese songs that they just released like last fall, Giant. But the rest of the songs that were on there are unit songs. So there's like two members singing a song together. So rather than it being the whole group, it's two of them. So we really, in particular, loved Escape, which is Bangchan and Hyunjin's unit song, and Bangchan's my bias anyway. So I knew that that was going to be a favorite because he's also like one of their main producers. And I'm like, if this is Bangchan's song, it's probably going to be my favorite because it was when they did like solo songs on their album that came out last year. His song was my favorite, Railway. And so that's usually what happens is Bangchan's songs are usually my favorite. So I was anticipating this being a favorite. And it was, but we also really loved Burning Tires, which is Changbin and IN's. Unrelated to K-pop, but still related to music, my daughter and I went to Winter Jam, and this was her very first Winter Jam. And I have been going for a long time, but it's been a while since I've gone. I used to always go with my sisters, and it's basically like this, almost like a music festival, and it's in the evening, and it's a whole bunch of Christian groups, and it tends to be like pretty diverse. So they had like KB there, so they had a rapper, they had Skillet there, so they had a rock group, they had what's her name? Ann Wilson, is that her name? She's like more country, and so they have like a pretty diverse range of artists, and so that was really, really fun, and we really enjoyed it. And I love having my daughter at the age that she is now, where she's such a fun concert buddy, and we have such a blast going to concerts together. So that was really fun. One of the things that we loved about that is it kind of forced us to catch up on certain artists. Like we hadn't listened to some of KB's newer stuff or a lot of Skillet's new albums, so we were listening to that. But also we'd never really been into Colton Dixon, and he was at Winter Jam, and so we started listening to some of his songs that were going to be on his set list and found some new favorite songs that we loved. And one of them is called The Devil is a Liar, and it's just like such a fun song musically, but also like it's just a great song. And so when we went, we were, hitting up the merch tables, and my daughter had to get a hat that says The Devil is a Liar, and I love it. Hats are her favorite souvenir. I don't really have much of an update in terms of things that we've been watching because I'm still watching the same kind of things. So we did finish, my daughter and I watched the entirety of the Stray Kids Survival show, which is essentially like how they put together the group of Stray Kids, and like they had these challenges that they had to do, and there was a risk of members being eliminated and them not being able to debut as a group together. And we watched the entirety of that and absolutely loved it. And then we've also been watching like Stray Kids and Itzy's variety shows, which is like them just doing funny things and doing challenges and playing games, and it's always so much fun to watch those. We love those so much, but we're actually entirely caught up on both of them, which has never happened. So we're excited about that, but also like, okay, now we need something new to watch. My husband and I are still watching Reborn Rich, which is a Korean drama that is just like so fascinating about this guy who is working for this really wealthy family, and he kind of like discovers some corruption, and in the first episode he's killed, and then he kind of like wakes up in the body of one of the grandchildren of the founder of this company, who is already dead at the time that he's like working for the company and stuff. And so it's really, really fascinating. So he has like foreknowledge of the future and ways that he can do certain things and how certain like world events are going to play out. And so it helps him to be able to be a savvy investor and give advice to people and stuff. And so it's a really interesting premise, and I'm not exactly sure even where we're going with this, but there's definitely like some kind of like revenge elements in there and some family drama, and it is just like really a fascinating show. We're a little over halfway through. I think it's got 16 episodes, and I think we're through episode 10 at the time of me filming this. So we really love it. In terms of gaming, I don't know if I have anything super interesting to share there. February was a really, really stressful month for us, and there was just a lot of things that it felt like life kept hitting us and hitting us and hitting us. And I know that had something to do with why I experienced like such a huge reading slump in the month of February. So what I was basically doing is like I needed something comforting and familiar. So I spent a ton of time in February playing Stardew Valley, which I have played before. And so this was, I think, my third farm. And basically this seems to happen every winter that Stardew Valley is like so comforting and familiar that I start a new farm and I play a certain amount of time on it and then get through. Usually I'll get almost to like year 3 in the game, and then I'm just like, okay, I'm done, and then I don't play again for like a year. So I'm getting to the burnout stage where I'm like, I think I'm done. But the other game that I played, that it's a short game, but it brought me so much delight. It's called Duck Detective, and I think the subtitle is like The Case of the Missing Salami or something like that. So it's about this like duck who is very much like a hard-boiled detective, like noir style. And we start the game with him talking about how like his wife is divorcing him and he's turning to bread for comfort. And so like the humor, that's like top notch. But he receives a call from this employee at a bus company that their lunch has been stolen. And so he has to go in there and figure out who stole the lunch. But as he keeps going further, there's like corruption and things happening that is not even what he was called into this company to solve. But the humor is so much fun, and the art style is really fun too. It kind of reminds me of Paper Mario, and that everyone feels kind of like a paper cutout. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was a very short game. I think I probably put maybe 2 hours, an hour to 2 hours into it. It's a very short game, so get it on sale if you want to get it, because maybe it's not worth the full price. I did get it on sale, but it is just like so much fun and made me very happy. Okay, let's get into some books. So I already mentioned I had a really slumpy February. Part of January was great, part of it was slumpy. And I feel like something that has been really, really lovely this spring has been like reading some things that feel familiar or feel more uplifting than things that are like heavy hitting and more difficult. So as a result, my favorite thing that I've read so far this spring is actually my reread of Anne of Avonlea. That has just made me so happy to be back in Anne's world. And although Anne experiences her share of heartache and difficulties, her optimism is really inspiring when I'm stressed out and when things aren't going my way. Like her worldview and how she views the world with such optimism and such inspiration and such imagination is always just like very uplifting to me. I've also been enjoying reading a lot of middle grade, which is not surprising because middle grade March. But I really enjoy Then There Were Five by Elizabeth Enright, because that is just like, I love the Melendi family series, and this is actually my first time reading it as an adult, and it still is just so wonderful as an adult. I read The Saturdays a couple of years ago, and then read the second one, Four Story Mistake, I think. So this is book 3, so I have one more after this. And Elizabeth Enright captures childhood in just such a beautiful and relatable way. So I think it's relatable to children, but also to adults who are reading this. And it like is so reminiscent to me of like, oh yes, this was the kind of things I loved to do as a child, or oh yeah, I felt that way about this. And it just is so nostalgic and relatable and so beautifully written about these 4 siblings and different adventures that they are going on. Just absolutely precious, but like really funny, and has like really beautiful prose too. Elizabeth Enright does a great job of like a strong sense of place. And so I have loved that. Another book that I have absolutely loved, and this is more hard hitting, but was so impactful and was like one of the only books that I read during my reading slump that actually I loved every second of and didn't have to force myself to read, is Foster by Claire Keegan. I've already talked about this in my February wrap up because that's when I read it. But this book is just, I feel like this is a good book for spring, honestly. It takes place in the summer, but it has just a lot of those kind of like redemptive elements that I love to see in spring, of a little girl that needs to go stay with a distant relative that she really doesn't know because her family's unable to care for her. They have a lot of kids. Her mom is pregnant and about to have another baby, and like their family situation is rough and she's just not receiving the attention that she needs. And also like they don't have the means to care for her. And so she goes to stay with this couple, and it's just like so beautiful to watch their love and care and acceptance of her draw her out of herself, but in the same respect, their love for her changes them and heals them in really deep and beautiful ways. And Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan was one of my favorite books of the year last year. I read it in December and it still made it into my top 10. And Foster, I feel like, is definitely going to make it into my top 10 this year because I loved it even more than Small Things Like These. Well, those are some things that I have been loving and enjoying lately. I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. What has been bringing you joy lately? These could be spring favorites, they could be seasonal, or they could just be things in general that are just making you happy, because it's fun to hear about like the little things in life that are bringing you joy. And sometimes when life is rough, focusing in on those little things is just so life-giving. And actually, it's life-giving anyway, I feel like, to focus on the positive things and the good things and the things that are making you happy. But I feel like it's that much more so when you're going through a difficult time or a stressful time or even just like a blah time. And I feel like this kind of like coming out of winter and into spring, it feels like rejuvenating. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like and also subscribe so you can continue to see more bookish content from me, and I will see you again next time.